Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going deep on St. Teresa of Avila. Pretty fascinating figure, in Christian mysticism.
Yeah.
I know Teresa is, famous for
Yeah.
like some really intense mystical experiences, visions and levitation.
What?
Even a fiery lance through the heart.
Wow.
That's a whole thing we'll get to.
Right.
But let's start like at the beginning.
Okay.
Where was she born?
She was born in
16th century Spain.
16th century Spain, yes. At either Avila
Okay.
or Gorondura in 1515.
Okay, so we're not
Not totally sure.
100%.
Yeah. But her family story is really fascinating.
Okay.
Her father was like this successful wool merchant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was part of like the wealthy class in Avila.
Nice.
But her paternal grandfather was a converso.
A converso.
Yeah, a Jew who converted to Christianity.
Oh, wow.
And he was actually condemned by the Inquisition,
Oh, no.
accused of, returning to Judaism.
Oh, wow. That's quite a mix.
Yeah.
So how did that,
Yeah.
family history shape her own faith?
Well, it's hard to say for sure,
Yeah.
but it definitely speaks to the religious tensions of the time,
Yeah, it wasn't just,
Yeah.
ideas. It was
Yeah.
like people's lives.
It had real-world consequences.
Exactly.
And keep in mind, the Spanish Inquisition was going on.
Oh, yeah.
Targeting anyone suspected of heresy. So
That's a good point.
yeah, it was
To remember
Yeah.
what was going on.
that's the world she was born into.
Yeah, totally. So
Yeah.
how did she, is she raised super religious?
Well, her mother was a devout Catholic,
Okay.
and she instilled a strong sense of faith in Teresa.
Okay.
There's actually a story about her
Oh.
trying to run away with her brother
Was.
to seek martyrdom as a child.
Oh, wow.
She was captivated by stories of the saints.
So she wanted to be a saint.
Yeah, it shows this early yearning for a life dedicated to God.
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
almost looking for that
Yeah.
intensity,
She wanted to completely surrender to a higher purpose.
Exactly.
So what happened after?
Yeah, what happened after that?
Well, she eventually entered the Carmelite convent
Great.
of the Incarnation in Avila when she was 20.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
it wasn't exactly the strict, disciplined environment she might have imagined.
So that must have been a little
Yeah.
disappointing.
It makes you wonder if she found what she was looking for there.
Yeah, did she?
Well, the convent at that time was known for being more relaxed,
Okay.
in its rules.
Okay.
But soon after joining, Teresa got really sick.
Oh.
And during her recovery, she had these intense religious experiences,
Wow.
visions that she attributed to St. Joseph.
Okay.
And this was a turning point for her.
So instead of pushing her away from faith, it deepened it
Yeah, totally.
and set her on a new course.
Yeah.
So what was it about those experiences?
Well, during her recovery, she really got into writings on contemplative prayer.
Okay.
And she was particularly drawn to St. Augustine's Confessions.
Okay.
It resonated with her struggles and longing for a deeper connection with God.
So she was actively seeking out tools and guidance
Right.
to understand these experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. And this period really laid the foundation for her mystical journey.
Yeah, totally. So now we're about to get into some pretty
All right.
extraordinary stuff.
Yeah.
Visions,
Mm-hmm.
the transverberation.
Right.
But before we do, I'm curious about how the sources describe it all.
Okay.
Are they skeptical? Are they accepting?
It's interesting the YouTube video really leans into the drama of it all.
Okay.
You can practically hear the music swelling as they describe the visions and the fiery lance.
Yeah.
The Catholic website approaches it with reverence,
Okay.
emphasizing the significance within the Catholic tradition.
Okay.
And Wikipedia takes a more neutral tone, just presenting the facts and offering some historical context.
So there's room for a lot of different interpretations,
Right.
even within, sources that share a similar perspective.
Right.
So that's something to keep in mind as we,
Yeah,
go deeper into these mystical experiences.
definitely.
All right, so let's talk about these mystical experiences. You mentioned visions of Jesus.
Yes. She described seeing Jesus Christ in bodily form, but she
Uh-huh.
made it clear that he wasn't visible in the conventional sense,
Okay.
but she felt his presence and communicated with him.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty intense.
Yeah, and she described feeling a profound sense of love and comfort,
Okay.
and also a deeper understanding of theological concepts.
Okay, so she was getting insights
Yeah.
from these visions.
But they weren't always easy.
Okay.
She also wrote about feeling unworthy.
Oh, wow.
even frightened at times.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that
Yeah.
it's not always,
Right.
sunshine and roses.
Yeah, it can be challenging, even overwhelming.
Yeah, and I think we kind of romanticize those
Yeah.
mystical experiences sometimes.
Right. There's a real rawness to it.
Exactly.
And maybe like the most well-known and dramatic of all of Teresa's mystical experiences is the transverberation.
The transverberation. I've got to
Yeah.
admit that word.
It's a mouthful.
Sounds pretty intense.
Well, she described it as a vision of a seraph.
Okay, an angel.
Right, an angel piercing her heart with a fiery lance.
Oh, wow.
And she wrote about feeling excruciating pain, but also overwhelming love in that moment.
Wow, so it's a pretty powerful image.
Incredible.
And I know there's the famous Bernini sculpture
Right.
that depicts that vision.
Yeah, and it's caused a lot of debate
Oh, really?
about how to interpret it.
So what do you make of that?
Well, Bernini's work definitely captures the emotional intensity of the experience,
Okay.
but it's important to remember that it's just an artist's interpretation.
Okay.
Some people argue that he overemphasized the erotic aspects,
Okay.
which could obscure the spiritual significance.
It's interesting how we try to represent these things that are
Yeah.
so personal and hard to put into words.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, in addition to the visions and the transverberation,
Yeah.
Teresa also reported experiencing levitation.
Yeah.
Okay.
That one's always captured people's imagination.
Yeah.
What did she say about that?
Yeah, what was her take on it?
She actually found it really embarrassing
Right.
and tried to downplay it.
Oh, wow.
Imagine just like suddenly lifting off the ground in the middle of a convent.
Yeah, that's not exactly
It's that exactly subtle.
a subtle thing.
Yeah, and I wonder what the other nuns thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, did
That's-
they
yeah.
share her mystical inclinations?
Well, some did, but there were also people who questioned her experiences.
Oh, okay.
Some even accused her of demonic influence.
Oh, wow.
But she also had supporters who recognized like the depth of her spirituality
Okay.
and the genuineness of her insights.
Yeah, and she wasn't just like passively receiving these experiences.
Right.
She actually used them to try and like revitalize the Carmelite order.
Yeah, she saw a disconnect between the ideals of the order
Okay.
and what was happening in her convent.
So she was like a reformer.
Right. She wanted to bring it back to its roots.
Okay. And what made her decide to do that?
Well, remember, she entered the convent seeking a stricter, more contemplative life. But it was much more relaxed than she'd expected,
Right.
and she was inspired by a Franciscan priest,
Okay.
Peter of Alcantara, to establish a reformed convent
Okay.
with more emphasis on poverty and prayer.
So she was taking her own mystical experiences
Yeah,
and using them to make change.
exactly.
That's pretty bold.
Yeah, she faced opposition, though,
Oh, really?
both within and outside the Carmelite order.
So how did she manage to do it?
She was persistent
Okay.
and persuasive, and eventually she got papal approval for her reforms,
Wow. Okay.
which allowed her to establish more convents.
Following her guidelines.
Exactly. And in 1562, she founded St. Joseph's Convent in Avila,
Okay.
which was the first of many reformed Carmelite convents.
And those are known as the Discalced Carmelites.
Yes.
And discalced means shoeless, right?
Exactly. It symbolized their commitment to poverty and simplicity.
Oh, okay. So it was like a
Yeah.
visual representation.
And she didn't just focus on women's communities.
Oh, wow.
She also worked to establish monasteries for men.
Collaborating with another big name in the Carmelite reform movement,
Who's that?
St. John of the Cross.
Oh, yeah. John of the Cross. He's famous for his writings on the dark night of the soul.
Exactly.
So how did their approaches to, like, mystical theology
Right.
work together?
They both emphasized contemplative prayer and detachment from worldly distractions.
Okay.
John of the Cross really delved into like the darker aspects of the spiritual journey.
Yeah, the doubt.
The doubt, the desolation that can come before the breakthroughs.
Right.
Teresa also acknowledged these challenges, but she focused more on the transformative power of divine love
Okay.
and the joy of union with God.
So they kind of offered a balanced perspective.
Yeah, I think so, acknowledging both the hardships and the ecstatic highs.
Yeah, and while she was doing all of this, reforming and traveling and founding new communities.
She also wrote some incredibly influential books.
Let's talk about her writings.
Okay.
Especially Interior Castle.
Which uses the metaphor of a castle
Yeah.
to describe the soul's journey to God.
Right.
Why do you think that metaphor has resonated so deeply with readers over the centuries?
Yeah.
It's such a, like, vivid image,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I can see how it would appeal to anyone,
Yeah.
not just, people who are super into theology.
Yeah, that's one of the things that makes her writing so timeless. You know?
Yeah.
She takes these, like, complex, mystical ideas and makes them relatable.
Yeah.
So in Interior Castle,
Okay.
she describes the soul as having 7 mansions.
7 mansions.
Yeah, each one represents a stage of spiritual growth. So it's a journey of moving inward,
Okay.
peeling back the layers to find the divine presence at the center.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
She also wrote about the 4 stages of prayer.
Yes.
Using the metaphor of watering a garden.
Oh, yeah.
Which I thought was really insightful.
It's such a good analogy.
Yeah.
She compares the different stages of prayer
Okay.
to the effort it takes to cultivate a garden. So, at first it's hard work,
Okay.
drawing water from a well.
Right.
But as you progress, the water becomes more available.
Okay.
Eventually, it's like flowing freely from a spring.
Oh, wow.
Symbolizing the effortless grace of mystical union.
That's a beautiful image.
Yeah.
It makes me think about any kind of personal growth,
Yeah.
It takes dedication and patience.
Right.
And a willingness to work through the challenges.
Now, Teresa also developed a system of 9 grades of prayer.
9 grades.
Okay.
Can you explain that a little?
Yeah, so the 9 grades of prayer kind of expand on the 4 stages.
Okay.
They offer a more detailed map of the spiritual journey.
Okay.
So it starts with vocal prayer,
Okay.
moves through meditation and contemplation,
Right.
and ends with the heights of mystical experience,
Wow.
where the soul is completely absorbed in God.
It's like she was acknowledging that it's a process, not a destination.
Exactly.
And as with all journeys, hers came to an end in 1582.
But her story didn't end there.
Oh, really? What happened?
Well, when they exhumed her body,
Okay.
it was found to be incorrupt.
Incorrupt. What does that mean?
It means it didn't decompose.
Oh, wow.
And this was seen as a sign of her sanctity,
Okay.
like divine confirmation of her holiness.
It's a phenomenon that's been attributed to a number of saints.
Yeah, throughout history.
And so what happened with Teresa?
Well, parts of her body became relics.
That's fascinating. I've got to admit the veneration of relics is a little
Yeah.
outside my understanding.
It's definitely something that's evolved over time.
Yeah.
Not everyone connects with it today.
Right.
But it shows how powerful physical objects can be.
Yeah.
They symbolize and embody something bigger than themselves.
So for people who do venerate relics,
Yeah.
it's a way to connect with the saint,
Exactly.
to be inspired by their example.
Yeah,
And Teresa's influence just kept growing after her death.
it did.
She was canonized in 1622,
Right.
and then in 1970, she became the first woman to be named a doctor of the church.
Which is a huge honor.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
It means that her work is considered essential to understanding Catholic theology and doctrine.
Wow.
It solidified her status as one of the most important spiritual figures in history.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what do you think are the most important takeaways?
Well, I think Teresa's story reminds us that the spiritual journey isn't about blind faith
Okay.
or passive acceptance.
Right.
She questioned, she challenged, she pushed boundaries.
Yeah.
She encourages us to engage with our own spiritual experiences,
Okay.
whatever they may be,
Yeah.
with curiosity and courage.
It's about that willingness to explore,
Yeah, to delve into the depths of our own being.
And she also emphasized contemplative practice.
Yes.
Finding that inner stillness.
Yeah, that's something that really resonates with me.
Okay.
Especially in today's world,
Yeah.
where we're constantly bombarded with information.
Yeah.
Her call to cultivate inner peace
Yeah.
and connect with the divine within.
Yeah. It's more relevant than ever.
Totally.
She reminds us that the treasure of heaven, like she called it,
Yeah.
isn't out there.
Hmm.
It's within us.
It's to be discovered in our own hearts.
And she invites us to go on that journey of self-discovery,
Right.
to explore our own interior castles.
And uncover that divine spark.
That's a beautiful message
It is.
to leave our listeners with.
Teresa of Avila, a woman of visions, a reformer, a mystic, and a doctor of the church.
Her life is a testament to the power of faith, the beauty of contemplation.
And the human search for meaning and connection.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive
Yeah, thanks for having me.
into the life and legacy of St. Teresa of Avila.
It was fun.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep
Right.
questioning, and keep diving deep.